Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to LiveNation.com to get your tickets now. That's LiveNation.com.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Maybe you're settled at home alone or with loved ones, covered in blankets, about to watch your favorite show. It's cozy, it's calm, and you're ready for a perfect night in. Therapy can feel a bit like that, a place for comfort, a time when you replenish your energy and take care of yourself. And hey, you can even do it without leaving that same cozy couch. This season is the perfect time to give therapy a try, right from the comfort of home. With BetterHelp, get matched with a tailored therapist based on your needs and preferences, entirely online. Designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Marijuana took our son.
He was in cannabis-induced psychosis.
Losing a child, you don't ever want anybody to know that feeling.
When you had the first psychotic episode, did it scare you?
I didn't know I was in it until I ended up in jail.
This is an out-of-control, predatory addiction for profit.
Thousands of children whose lives are bettered by their cannabis use.
You are destroying the lives, and it's got to stop.
This is a very powerful substance now, and with that comes a dark side. Every single day, more than 600,000 calls are made to 911. That's about 240 million a year. Now, many of those calls are drug-related, but sometimes not as life or death as they seem at the time. Listen to this.
I think I'm having an overdose of so is my wife.
Overdose of what?
Marijuana. I don't know if it had something in it. Can you please send rescue?
Did you guys have fever or anything?
No, I think we're dying.
Okay, how much did you guys have?
I don't know. We made brownies, and I think we're dead. Time is going by really, 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 really slow.
Well, that may seem funny now because it is, but it's after the fact. But make no mistake about it, that man was scared and truly thought he was dead. Now, whether you are pro-marijuana, and 68% of the population are for legalizing it, or vehemently against it, there is one thing that is for sure. Much of today's marijuana is not just weed. Marijuana products in the 90s contained 4% THC, 4%. Today, you can find up to 96% THC in many products. Depending on who you are, that can lead to addiction, a variety of cannabis use disorders, including psychotic episodes and even suicide. Now, parents Heather and Randy know all too well the dangers of marijuana. Their son, Randy Jr., started smoking when he was 15 years old to help him cope. He often recorded himself high.
Grown up since I was like 15, started dealing with some depression and social anxiety, and my main outlet for that started out as smoking weed, which helped me take care of that. I just randomly decided that I was going to make music. It'll be interesting to look back at this and see where the heck I am. All I see around me is addiction and pain. All I see around me is addiction and pain. All right, that's it.
Now, Heather and Randy say that over the years, Randy Jr.'s marijuana use escalated and he became delusional. He even bought a gun for protection.
I called my parents and was like, hey, like something bad is happening. Like I need help. So that gun purchase is more out of some paranoia that I've had. All of a sudden, cops were coming after me, that musicians were going to be coming after me. I didn't know what to do, and I thought I was going to die. And I was just pacing back this hallway here, just going back and forth to that window, checking to make sure no one was coming to kill me. I was in full-blown psychosis.
Well, Heather and Randy say that Randy Jr. often talked about getting sober, but this addiction always got the better of him.
I've been trying to quit smoking weed. It's really hard because growing up, I was always such a pro-weed guy. I'm 21 now and hope to live to be, living in my 80s, 90s, So this is my last joint for a little bit until I record the album. Shout out to Mom and Dad for caring. About to be a little naughty, so one more night and I think we'll be done. You never really know. It's hard to fight the feeling.
At one point, while deep into his addiction, Randy Jr. tried to get his life back on track, alternating between hope and despair.
I tried to get sober. I really struggled. I couldn't socialize with other kids the same way I could if I was smoking weed. With everything that's gone down this year, I actually got pretty down, and then I got even more down because, I really haven't turned out to be much like my dad. I think I really need some help. I'm starting to go a little nuts with it. It's 4 a.m. Been making music the last few weeks here, and we're on the final stages. So on the grind here, as you can see. This is the full ashtray from the album. Process of making this, and shout out to anyone who's enjoying it once I post it, once I drop it, and shout out to anyone who makes this documentary happen that I'm filming for, that pray to God I'll be alive for, Seriously.
Right before Randy took his own life, he sent his mother a text. In the text, he said, "I'm quitting weed for good and want to surround myself with healthy and happy people. This has been too much for me and for you guys. Love you." Then, 43 minutes later, he sent another one. "I love you, and I'm sorry for everything. I love Dad, and the same to him. I wish I would have been a better person." During those early morning hours, Randy Jr. also did 3 internet searches. Jesus, 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 right? Then tragically, he did take his own life. That was over 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now, while he was never officially diagnosed with cannabis-induced psychosis, you believe that marijuana was the reason. Why do you believe that?
I know marijuana was the reason that our son died. He was in cannabis-induced psychosis, and he had a lot of the characteristics and symptoms that people will have when they're in that. He was paranoid. He was delusional. It's a process. Originally, it just changed his personality where he became more aggressive, more combative, and that was when he was living with us. He brought a lot of chaos to our house. And then once he got really sick and the paranoia and the delusion set in, he thought the mob was after him. He thought that he talked to God. He thought he talked to the devil. All of these things are very characteristic of cannabis-induced psychosis.
Yeah. Do you agree? You think the same thing?
Marijuana took our son. The child he was and who he became were 2 different people.
Do you know why he turned to it to begin with?
To begin with that, I really think he turned to it for social acceptance.
Right.
And, kids were doing it. He hung around with a few kids that were a little bit older, mm-hmm. and they were experimenting, and that's really why he did it originally. And then he quickly bought into what the industry touts as their talking points, that it's medicinal and it helps with anxiety and depression, which, eventually he had anxiety and depression, but it wasn't until after he started smoking.
Right. And we're going to find out how Randy Jr.'s mental decline led him to purchasing a gun. So we're in a perfect storm here. You've got someone that's really hurting. He's in paranoia and seeks out something that can really be lethal. We'll talk about this after the break.
Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to livenation.com to get your tickets now. That's livenation.com.
I'm very, very proud of him. He's a great kid. I'm really proud of you, okay? I love you, buddy. Thank you.
There's so much talk about this getting legalized federally, but when you see what's happened in your lives, until people have been on the dark side of an issue, it's just that, it's an issue. It's something people are talking about. And I want people to understand there is a dark side to this. Take me through the moment that you found out you had lost your son.
We hadn't been able to reach him for a couple of days. We called Denver police and asked them to do a well check. We lived with a lot of uncertainty at points in time with him. Did a well check, didn't hear back from the police, called them. They said, we'll be calling you back a little bit later. 9:30, we received a call from the Denver County Coroner's Office and basically telling us that our son is in the morgue. Losing a child, going through that, hearing that, is something you don't ever want anybody to know that feeling. Heather and I were together. We had our daughters when the call came in. We were heartbroken.
It took a long time for it to be real. There are times where I really just don't even still believe it, but it is real. I know better. I knew he wasn't healthy mentally, and we made it pretty well known. I wanted people to know that he used marijuana and that it messed with his mental state. So that was important for me right away. He died because he was in cannabis-induced psychosis, and other people have experienced the same thing. And the commonality between all of them is frightening. And so people will say, well, it's not that. Well, it is.
No, I mean, there's no question that this is a reality. And the younger they start using, and 15 seems to be a real pivot point for this, when their brains are still pruning themselves, they're particularly vulnerable. And I'm just wondering, what do you think when you read 68% of people think, yeah, legalize it? You know, it's...
I think the industry's done a very good job of messaging the fact that they believe this stuff is harmless and it's helpful. Really, we're gonna look back on this in 10 years, and I have no doubt, this is a tobacco 2.0 without question. They've made this normalized. Oh, you're not feeling a certain way. Take this, you'll feel better. The potency today, this stuff, as you talked about the brain, you take the brain at age 15, you put today's potency in there, and continued use, it's a recipe for disaster.
America's 3 deadliest drugs that are lethal are tobacco, alcohol, opioid, painkillers, heroin, marijuana is down at the bottom, and they say 0, just not lethal. But that's not true. It's not true depending on who you are, what you bring to the table when you're using. If you have certain predispositions, whether it's mental, emotional, genetic, it can certainly be lethal. Now, although Randy's story ended tragically, there are users who have experienced the worst marijuana has to offer, and they've lived to tell the tale. Now, Kobe says he's lucky to be alive after not 1, not 2, but 3 cannabis-induced psychotic episodes. We're going to add him to the conversation after the break.
Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to livenation.com to get your tickets now. That's livenation.com.
Hey, Dad. Happy Father's Day. Just want to say I'm really blessed to have you as my dad. I know it's been kind of a crazy year, but I hope that we get to see each other here at the end of the summer. I hope that you have a nice rest of your day, and I love you. And if we don't get to touch base, I'm really glad you're my dad. All right. Bye-bye.
Well, today we're talking about marijuana. Look, some use this for pain management, some to relieve anxiety or depression, and some just for fun. In fact, millions claims that it has saved their lives. But what happens when marijuana use devolves into something much darker, something much more dangerous? Heather and Randy know all too well about that. Their son, Randy Jr., was 21 years old when he sent that voicemail on Father's Day before he took his own life after struggling with marijuana addiction for years. Now, like Randy, Kobe was in high school when he started smoking marijuana, and he says eventually became addicted. But he is one of the lucky ones. He's sober now and says he and his family went through hell and back just to get him there. A hell that included 3 psychotic episodes brought on by marijuana use. Now, his mother, Linda, captured Kobe in the middle of one of those episodes. Take a look.
What have you been doing all day?
Just chilling with the homeless.
Yeah, where's your car?
I left it out. It's okay. I'll buy a new one.
With what money?
Emmy money. I have an Emmy. I also have a Grammy. I have a couple of these as well. I don't know. I don't really like to show off my awards or accolades or money. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? I like to fight for nature and marijuana and the spirit of God, the Holy Trinity.
When was the last time you smoked?
Like last night. I'm not a big fan of bikes.
Why don't you come home and we'll get something to
I think
eat.
we should get kids like miniature cars, and teach them how to drive.
Who'd you smoke pot with last night?
My friends. Friends share with friends. And I'm a friend of nature, so I will share with humanity, because nature's friends with humanity.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yes.
What'd you think about when I was talking to them? You went through this 3 times, but you came out the other side.
I just feel your pain. And I'm so sorry that you went through that. And I know how it is. Mostly, for the most part, I do. It's just one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in my life, or my husband and him. It was a terrible experience. It's just awful. Sorry.
When you look back at it now, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't deserve to be in this seat. It's crazy. I'm still recovering. It's wild to think the similarities that me and your son had in terms of our interests. Like if I met him, I know that we would kick it off, right? And he would be one of my good friends. But there's so much to marijuana that nobody really understands yet. And I'm not here to say that weed is evil. I'm here to say that it has the potential to become a demonic force in your life. This video I look back at it and I want to hit myself. I see that video and I want to punch my face. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that video. It hurts me to even see how I was acting, how rude and insecure and ignorant of everything I was doing.
How old were you when you started?
14 and a half.
So about the same time. And we do have video, and you were a completely different personality.
What happened to your feet, Kobe?
I was walking a lot.
How come you didn't have your shoes on?
I like to dance in the sun.
Where are your shoes at?
Right there. Next to my friends. They're my Jesus sermons, so I can do God's work.
How much of those do you remember?
It's very fragmented. Comes in and out, just talking about it for the past couple weeks, constantly, it brings back a lot of stuff.
And when you had the first psychotic episode, did it scare you?
No, it didn't scare me at all. And, you know, I think about Randy Jr. and, you know, like I said, the similarities that are there and present. And the fact that he's not here right now and I am, I don't know why. I don't know why. And I wish I could say I don't, like, why he's not here right now and I am. It's weird, man. And, you know, I do believe in God. And I think that, you know, your son is an amazing person. I think that he had so much in front of him. And it just, I was right there. So I know what it's like to see that.
What do you want people to know about this drug?
I would really implore people to know it has consequences. You're playing with the devil's fire. It's inferno. It's bad. You don't want to be associated with something that can do that to you. I have a lot of friends back home that smoke. I live in a city where it's all legal. We have the most dispensaries per capita in the entire United States. So it's all around me. I have to function around it. You can't avoid something like that. You have to learn to avoid it.
From doctors, lawyers, and police officers to nurses, teachers, and even grandparents, millions and millions of Americans from all walks of life are smoking, eating, and using marijuana daily. And we're going to meet a mother and a successful entrepreneur who is one of those people after the break.
Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to LiveNation.com to get your tickets now. That's LiveNation.com.
There are two sides to the marijuana story, and we've heard from two families who extol its dangers. Our next guest says she uses marijuana product virtually every day. Now, Jane West is a pro-marijuana advocate and a business owner in the marijuana lifestyle space. Now, whether it's smoking, an edible, or a topical, she uses them all. And she says it just makes her feel better. So for you, it serves what purpose?
Cannabis makes me better. The vast majority of women in my age group, when they go to the doctor, and I know you've talked about this before, they're feeling down, they're looking for some solution. Most of them leave with a daily addiction, a bottle of pills that they're supposed to take every day, and if it stops working, they're just supposed to take a little bit more. I don't take prescription medications. I utilize cannabis when I need to. And there's a lot of women that I've found across the country that are finding cannabis is the best solution for them as well.
You said something that I was really surprised about when we interviewed you. You said, the good thing about marijuana is it's not addictive.
I believe it is not addictive.
And you say that based on what?
Well, I'm not a doctor. So, but I believe that people consume cannabis on a daily basis and they can do so without being addicted.
Mm-hmm. And you're familiar with cannabis use disorder.
I have heard of that, yes.
You've heard of it?
Yes, cannabis use disorder.
It's when
yes.
It interferes with people's lives.
Yes.
They continue to use it whenever it interferes, even though it interferes with their social activity, their work activity, their health. They try to get away from it and they can't.
Yes.
They keep being pulled back to it, back to it, back to it. They need more and more of it in order to get to the same level of satisfaction, high, or whatever payoff they got from it before, which, I don't know, sounds a lot like addiction to me. I mean, I don't know.
It sounds a lot like alcoholism, but you can get high-potency alcohol and low-potency alcohol across this country.
You don't maintain that there aren't alcohol addictions?
No, I'm just saying that while some individuals may have a habitual problem with a substance, that doesn't mean that adult Americans should not have access to that substance.
That wasn't the question. The question was whether or not people can use this to the point that they become reliant upon it and can't stop even if they want to without help.
Yes, there are definitely individuals with addictive personalities who choose cannabis as their substance of choice.
Okay. So you agree that there can be an addictive relationship between a user and the substance?
Absolutely, when they develop habits around it and are using it every day and it's not making their lives better. But what I've experienced, and when I started in this sector 10 years ago, it was because I wanted an alternative to the antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, and all the other things that they're putting moms like me on. But in my journey over those 10 years, I found that I could fill this stage 100 times with the parents of teenagers whose lives are better because of medical cannabis. And every one of those different 100 shows would be on a different condition that it helps relieve.
I have to respond to what you just said, and we have to take a break before I do. But after the break, Jane's going to be joined by a woman who is vehemently against weed and wants to bring to light the dangers of this new era of marijuana, which, as I've said, it ain't your parents' marijuana, and it sure ain't your grandparents' marijuana. We'll be right back.
Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to LiveNation.com to get your tickets now. That's LiveNation.com.
We're adding a guest to our conversation whose son became addicted to marijuana in high school. Then, as she was desperately trying to help her son beat his addiction, her husband became addicted. Now today, Aubree works to educate about the health and environment of dangers concerning marijuana and the drug culture. So welcome, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
What is your number one issue with legalizing this marijuana?
Well, my main issue with legalizing marijuana is that we've allowed voices like Jane's to come in and deceive the public by calling it medicine and calling it not addictive. And the public deserves to know the truth so they can make informed decisions.
Well, it is addictive.
Yes, it is addictive.
As are a lot of other substances that we're being prescribed as well as.
And widely available.
Yes, and we shouldn't have drug biases about that. 30% of marijuana users are developing cannabis use disorder. When you compare it to alcohol, about 15% of users become addicted to alcohol. So we need to look at those facts. And the industry has made these products more potent. They've deceived them with sugary flavors so the consumer can't taste how toxic they really are, and they're destroying the mental and physical health of not only our children, but of our people.
You know, the problem is the younger you are when you start taking this, the more problems it creates, right?
Correct.
And you're aware of that.
Absolutely.
At what age do you start selling this to customers?
Well, it depends on the state, and we want to follow state rules, but usually it's over the age of 21.
Yeah, it's too young.
The brain does not develop to the age of 25. So if you're going to regulate marijuana, if you're going to regulate cannabis, you should not allow anybody under the age of 25 to buy it.
Yeah.
So I totally disagree with you that this is a regulated market. This is an out-of-control, predatory addiction for profit industry that is targeting the youth of our country and targeting disadvantaged communities by very toxic products. And you sell devices for them to take that product and charge a chemical assault to their brain.
That's
and very high potency. Those are facts.
This is your opinion, Aubree. And there are many individuals who are better because of cannabis. There are individuals who are able to wean off of all prescription medication.
The science is not on your side when it comes to that.
You guys that are pro-advocates for this really need to get somebody that can help you market this in a more effective way. Because when you say, oh, it's just your opinion, that's not true. That's not just her opinion.
I don't believe
And
that
can
the
I add
facts that
something
you
to
are-
that? There
I
is
don't believe the facts you're relaying are accurate.
Zero proof that these products are safe for adult use. Zero proof. You all need to prove it. Put it through the clinical
I
trials
believe
and
the
prove that
fact
there are.
that
You can't do this with
billions-
anecdotes because you are destroying the lives
aren't
of Americans
anecdotes.
right
These
now.
are not anecdotes.
You sell the delivery
Billions
devices
of dollars of cannabis have been sold to
put
millions
a
of
chemical
Americans.
assault to the brain, and it's got to stop.
But one thing I do know is that life, liberty, and the pursuit
There's
of happiness
no freedom
is an
in marijuana.
inalienable
You
right.
tell me where Randy Jr.'s freedom
Medical
is.
patients
You tell me
should be
where
able
the
to live their
growth
lives
fatality people that are
utilizing
being killed by
cannabis
marijuana
safely.
impaired drivers.
Okay, I feel like I'm listening to two radio stations at the same time. All right, we're going to talk to a Colorado doctor who says she sees marijuana cases in her emergency room every day. We'll see what she has to say. We'll be right back.
Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to LiveNation.com to get your tickets now. That's LiveNation.com.
Joining us now virtually is Dr. Karen Randell. Dr. Randell is an emergency room physician in Pueblo, Colorado. She calls Pueblo ground zero for marijuana problems in America. Also joining us virtually is Aaron Smith. He's the executive director of the National Cannabis Industry Association. He believes cannabis is safer than many other legal drugs and alcohol. I'm not sure the relevance of that comparison, but he's joining us virtually as well. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Dr. Randell, what are you seeing in the ER that is marijuana related?
So many things. I just don't think you can limit it to a few things. We see psychosis, overdose, unintentional ingestion in pediatrics, hypertension, there's a stroke mimic, lung damage from vaping, and long-term genetic consequences. I see young adults who are no longer able to go to school because they have really bad cannabis hyperemesis. And we've seen any number of acute psychoses from the age of 7 all the way to the age of 79. I've spoken a lot to state senates to try and describe the harms. And in the times that I speak to them, I invite them to come spend a day with me and walk in my shoes so they can see the endpoint of legalization like we see it, because we see it every single day that we work.
We're seeing changes in the neocortex, a thinning in the cortex, impairment in problem solving, foresight, all types of problems with hijacking of the pleasure centers and the nucleus accumbens and others that are right down center road on addiction. And these are things that suggest to me that using this certainly in a consistent way before the brain is fully developed at least 25, maybe 35 for men is not a good idea. Am I overreacting to this?
No, you're not overreacting. And if you look up the definition of addiction, like you pointed out, these kids who are using can't stop. So they're clearly addicted and they need to use more. And it becomes a problem for these children that they go to many extents to get product. And in the state of Colorado, we have about 1,000 dispensaries, both medical and regular cannabis, literally everywhere. And our kids are getting a hold of this and they're using it. And there's so many deceptive devices so that these kids can actually vape in school. And then when we talk about we're going to put it in community of colors, like my community of color, what you're doing is making this product widely available to young children. And this community doesn't have the resources to offer treatment for these children who become addicted. And it is, you saw the anguish on the parents that you had on stage. I see that when I work. When they bring in a psychotic 7-year-old, I don't have anything to offer them. Or a psychotic, depressed, suicidal 13-year-old who's been selling herself for cannabis at school. How do I help these kids as a practitioner? The industry needs to recognize the harms, and they need to very clearly state to the public that this isn't a miracle drug, that this isn't going to cure every illness, that there are very real harmful potentials. There is not a single person in your audience who would give a shot of alcohol to a 9-month-old. But people don't think twice about letting their infant have cannabis, and I have seen a lot of cases of that.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Now, that's terrible.
unbelievable.
Aaron, what's your position on this, and what do you think should happen in terms of the legalization?
Well, the question here isn't about whether or not people should be using marijuana or not. It's about whether or not it should be sold through regulated facilities that are only allowing people over 21 into those facilities to get tested product, or whether or not this should be sold as it used to be on the criminal market, where there is no age verification, it's not tested, it's not labeled, and consumers don't know what they're getting. And we're hearing anecdotes about some stories, some of which are tragic, but we need to put all of this into the context of the data and the science when we're talking about public policy. In the last, we're talking about teen use. In between the decade between 2011 and 2021, the number of high schoolers who reported using marijuana was declined by 30%. In that same period of time, half of the states in this country almost legalized cannabis. So we're proudly keeping this out of as many teens as we can as an industry.
We are not keeping this out of the hands of children, especially in my community. We are definitely not. And what has happened is that you have a whole illegal market that is selling and providing to kids. We have excess product. Kids here can go on Snapchat, connect with somebody who I had 2 kids tell me that it was the dispensary store owner, and buy product out the back door. How is this regulated?
Well, that's illegal and should continue to be illegal and should be prosecuted by law enforcement. That's not our industry. You're talking about a legal industry that we, as much as anybody else, would like to
No,
see
it's
put out of
representatives. Your industry selling product out the back door. It is your industry, and unless you guys accept that there are harms, accept that there are medical consequences, these are going to continue to happen. The public is listening to what you say, and it's not necessarily beneficial for the public at large. And when we talk about medical cannabis and making sure there's a patient-doctor relationship, not once ever in my medical career have I ever been able to get, quote, medical records from a cannabis doctor. Never. So if you're going to talk about regulation, really regulate this. Make it an FDA medicine. There is no medicine that I have that I say, oh, yeah, here, Mrs. Jones, you have hypertension. Go to the store and ask the clerk about which medicine you think is the best, and then take as much as you want. There's no medicine like that.
Dr. Randell's opinions are clear, but they also feel to me like some analogies as well. And whilst cannabis is not for everyone and absolutely should be kept out of the hands of minors, and that is what the regulated cannabis sector is trying to do, that does not mean that adults should not have access to this product that improves their lives and makes it better.
You are impersonating medical professionals when you say that. There is no proof that the products. Please let me speak. Please let me speak. You've spoken over me this whole time. You need to prove that these are safe for adult use. You have 90% THC vapes masked with sugary flavors, causing chemical assaults to the brain and stealing the mental well-being of our loved ones. That is not safe.
Look, I need to be very transparent about this. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I haven't had a drink in 60 years or whatever. I don't. So I probably am not a completely balanced person about this sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with having drinks socially or whatever. It's just something I chose not to do because my dad was an alcoholic. So I think I'll pass on that. But here's where I think realistically I hope we come down. This is not a miracle drug. It's not a cure-all. And I think there has to be responsibility. Our legislators and anybody that's voting on this needs to know the facts. There is a dark side to this because with science, it has become very, very potent. This has become a very strong substance that can interact with your brain. And with that power comes danger. And if you start using this in your mid-teens, you've got a 15% risk of developing a cannabis use disorder, which is why I say it shouldn't be made available to young people below the age of 25. That's what the science dictates here. And even then, people should be aware that this is a very powerful substance now. And with that comes a dark side. Those are the facts. That's the science.
I totally agree with what you're saying, except, can I say something?
One thing and we got to go.
Okay, this is not alcohol. This is fat-soluble drug, and it adheres to the fats in our body, and we don't metabolize it out like alcohol. And everybody gets to their breaking point. That's why we're seeing so much mental illness that comes from these toxic products that you support.
And I just can't explain away the thousands of teenagers using medical cannabis who are thriving and excellent students and athletes.
It is contraindicated for depression and anxiety, and the public must know that.
I want to thank all of my guests tonight for being here. The whole reason we covered this topic is because America's children can sometimes become victims left in this drug's wake. Randy Jr. left this world way, way too early. He was deeply loved by all who knew him, especially his mother, father, sister, and family. I just want you to look at his face and the life that in part was taken due to a drug people can sometimes believe to be harmless when it's not. Let his story be a catalyst for change. Guys, our thoughts and prayers are with you, and I thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Hey, music fans, there are some great concerts headed this way. Don't miss out on all the shows in your favorite venues like Deftones at Madison Square Garden, Eagles at the Sphere, and Foster the People at the Ryman Auditorium. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to LiveNation.com to get your tickets now. That's LiveNation.com.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today.